Welcome everyone. My name is Brett Bennett. The topic that was given to me this week was movement. Most people would think of nonverbal communication as our movement. This is one reason why we need to be aware of our movement, and while studying some of this information, I found that we are not aware of a lot of the movements that we make. One quote that I found by Ralph Waldo Emerson, he states, "What you do speaks so loudly that I cannot hear what you say." I think this can all hit home for us as we give nonverbal communications each day, and especially with our movement. Some of the topics that we will cover within this video are gestures, our posture and our stance, and mimicry. Jumping right into our gestures, the first that falls under them are emblems. Emblems are not necessarily generally with our hands, but can be. A couple of the examples that I will use are the OK sign with our hand. Everything's A-OK, showing somebody that what they're doing potentially is all right and that their actions are okay. Another one example that I found that hit home, I coach some hockey, and the timeout sign. In a game, I can look at a ref and use this gesture as a T, like that the team would like to call a timeout, and within that communication, that it being nonverbal, I've indicated to the ref that we would like to call a timeout and stop play. Now, the one thing with emblems that is important is that they can change within cultures. And so being sure, now generally a lot of us aren't going to be outside of the United States, but just being aware that within different cultures, different emblems can mean different things. So that was one thing that I felt was important. The second type of gesture is illustrators. This is when a person is trying to explain an item that is not present. For example, the size of an object, if I were to talk about a circle or a ball, something where I use my hands to show the size, illustrating how big the object is. Or if somebody wanted to show us how big or the structure of something, they could draw in the air, such as that. So we use illustrators to show potentially size or also to emphasize a topic that is being discussed. The third gesture that we'll talk about are regulators. These are generally used with your hands but can include the head also. These are often associated with turn taking within a conversation. So, for example, holding up a flat palm to someone to keep from interrupting, something such as that. Hey, stop. I am going to say what I need to say, and then it's going to go ahead and be your turn. Also, another one that I would use is a gesture such as this, somebody using their hand to show you to come towards them. That would be a type of regulator that is a gesture. The fourth is an affect display. And these are signals towards a person that may display feeling. This can include boredom, anger, or interest. Another point with affect displays are that facial expressions can fall under this category. These actions are generally spontaneous. And so a couple of examples that I would use are smiling, obviously showing somebody that you're happy with what is going on. Another one would potentially be arms across the chest, showing that they're not interested or may not have a positive gesture towards something. The fifth type of gesture are adapters. These often occur at a low level of personal awareness, so we're not aware of what we're doing. The observer may be more aware of the action than the actual doer. And so if I'm watching somebody and they are twisting their hair with their fingers, something such as that may show disinterest. And also these actions may increase when the level of anxiety, these actions may increase when the level of anxiety goes up in the situation. So if we're feeling anxious towards something, we may do these a little bit more than some of our other ones. The second thing that I had talked about is our posture and our stance. Slumping, leaning, standing with weight on one foot are all nonverbal movements that we make, and a couple of these might be negative and show weakness or lack of confidence. Now, within our posture and our stance, there are positive things. One example that I would use is if we're speaking with somebody, standing at a military attention shows power, alertness, and confidence. So just being aware of that and understanding how we are standing or how our shoulders are potentially will dictate what we are conveying with our movement. The last one is mimicry or mimicking within a conversation, and this kind of falls under a little point of gesturing, and it has been shown to positively influence the flow of conversation. This can include back and forth exchanging of smiles, head nods, and arm crossing. I think of just generally engaging in a conversation, and if things are positive, you're going to go ahead and nod your head or smile at them and show that things are all right. Again, this in turn creates a feeling amongst the people that are an understanding of the conversation, so that is very important. Overall, again, movement can be one of the most important nonverbal communications that we display. It influences the conversation and can convey how an individual is feeling. Much of our movement is unnoticed by the person who is acting it, but we can be aware of some of our actions. So again, movement includes gestures, posture in our stance, and mimicry. So just being aware of these things will help us within the workplace, and along with that, just in general conversation with people. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you down the road.